Oh, my mom made her dip, by the way, bro.
What dip? Well, I've not heard of this dip.
Well, it's simple, but so good.
But effective is what you're
It's
okay.
it's it's a ranch dip. I mean, it's literally like ranch and cheese, but bro,
Yeah, that's all you need.
I could take a bath in it.
You can take a bath in your mom's ranch and cheese dip, and I can take a bath in cane sauce. It's perfect.
Cane sauce, or you could take a bath in the Papa John's
Papa
garlic.
John's garlic butter. Yes, never forget.
Which,
Yes.
dude, if you did that, you would get so much acne. Can you imagine the
Oh,
oil?
yeah, that wouldn't be good, would it? Oof. And you think garlic breath is bad? A magic garlic body.
You would look like a whole ass seventh grader again. They'd be like, "Oh, he's a bitch, buddy. He'll get through it."
Maybe when I'm 26.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Below Average Joe's MMA show recap edition. I almost said preview. Went, no, it's a recap. Then went, wait, no, it is preview.
No, it is a preview.
No, it's a recap.
Yeah.
It's a preview for a recap. Because we're in the intro portion.
That is what an intro is.
Yeah. Well, welcome back. Let's just get on into the recap, okay? Out of the preview portion. No, but I'm glad to be here with Dominic. We've both had a good weekend. We're both back in Ohio, but have not seen each other because powers that be want to keep us apart. No, I'm just kidding. But shout out to some old friends getting married this weekend. Dominic was, of course, in attendance.
Mm-hmm.
Myself, gone swimming.
Literally.
Yeah, swam for 6 hours yesterday. My back pain is gone.
Oh.
I did get burnt. Did I wear sunscreen? No, I did not. Will I be taking any questions at this time? No, I will not. Am I white? Yes, I am. This all makes sense now. So, yes. Dominic, how are you doing? What do you have to look forward to? I know you are also having a little get-together tomorrow. You were just telling me about off recording. So I also mentioned Happy 4th of July to everybody watching. For us here in America, 2 words, Joey Chestnut. Dominic, take it away.
Joey Chestnut, the infamous hot dog champion of the world. Man, I get sick watching those guys just shove those hot dogs down their gullet, though. And it's not really that; it's when they dip it in the water and the bun gets all.
I love it. Reminds me of in SpongeBob, they always said a Krabby Patty was real good. It made me want to take a burger and just dunk it in water. I thought that was the secret recipe, was that it's a literal soggy burger.
Oh my gosh, a Krabby Patty is a soggy burger, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You just blew my mind on this Sunday afternoon. Anyways, it's been a good weekend so far. We did get to celebrate a wedding down here for some old friends and a little get together for some pizza today for the girlfriend's family, and then a little 4th of July get together on Monday. So it's going to be a really fun weekend here to cap it off. And of course, we're capping off the MMA weekend in the studio this afternoon as well. This card turned out to be pretty enjoyable, I will say. There were some pretty good moments throughout it, and I'm excited to break those down. Noah, you're home for the weekend. You're with the family. You saw part of the Below Average Joe's community yesterday, so I've heard. So how did that go as we get rocking today?
It was good. It was good to see JP. It was good to see Jacob. He did not introduce himself to me by putting me in a flying triangle, so I was very thankful for that. But no, it was always good to see my good buddies. Dominic could not be there, which, of course, was sad. Felt like there was someone missing. Jake Branson also could not be there. It was sad.
Yeah.
But they were there in spirit.
Yes.
So with that, Dominic, I think we're going to get into today's show. But first, let's plug those platforms real quick. So if you can follow us as a show on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, at the BAJ MMA. For Blazin Bets, we'll put the full bet slips on there going into the weekend's cards. Usually live tweeting some of the cards. You know, we're trying to make the social media pop a little bit more. TikTok doing some trivia for every card. Just little fun things here and there. Any suggestions would be welcomed of how to keep improving on it. We are not natural Twitter social media users. Like, we love to just scroll.
Mm-hmm.
But the posting part, a little more unnatural for us. So you can follow us there. You can follow myself on Twitter, Instagram at Noah Baker MMA. You can follow Dominic on Twitter or Instagram at dslee14. Also, if you would like to listen to full audio versions of the podcast, you can do so on Spotify, on Apple, at the Below Average Joe's MMA Show. If you would like to watch video versions of the podcast, you can do so on YouTube at the Below Average Joe's. Dominic, did I cover everything?
Yes, and if you're watching on YouTube today, we brought back the infamous triple box, so get ready for a showcase.
Yeah. Real quick explanation on that. I made the ultimate sin of forgetting my recording equipment when I came home. Using my sister's laptop, since I don't have a mic, I have to do the triple box because that is my phone that I'm talking into, but I'm muted on the computer. So you're seeing me on the computer, but my voice is coming from my phone. Kind of freaky, huh?
It's inception of podcasts, yes.
So with that, Dominic, UFC South Dakota 27.
You got it. That's what it was.
You saw Sean Strickland. The man might be a maniac outside of the octagon. And honestly, Dominic, this was about as, well, maniacal as I've ever seen him look inside the octagon. It only takes him 2 rounds to get rid of Abus Magomedov. He gets it done via TKO, 4 minutes, 20 seconds of round number 2. Dominic, this was an interesting main event going in. It was not a highly anticipated main event, but there was this intrigue on okay, the UFC are giving a big yellow bus his main event shot, second UFC fight, only 19 seconds of octagon time. He's going up against a perennial top 10 guy at this point, Sean Strickland, who's fought everybody in the top 10. It felt like interesting dynamic. And I'll admit I sort of bought into this because you looked at the betting odds, and they were very close. I mean, Strickland was like a minus 150. So now that the fight's taking place, Strickland does get his first finish in, I thought it was like 4 or 5 years or something like that. Now, do you feel like when you walk away from this fight, do you find yourself having more positive takeaways for Sean Strickland and maybe the growth you've seen from him over his last few fights? Or do you look at Abus Magomedov and go, nope, he really just wasn't ready for this opportunity, and you definitely question his future moving forward?
I have to go with the latter. I think it's hard not to go with the latter. And I say that because for Sean, we know what we're getting from him. Like, don't get me wrong, he got a finish, which was awesome, but it was due to Abus Magomedov completely gassing out and having nothing to give after the first round. So Sean saw that and capitalized on it. And I think he did showcase his fight IQ and just ability of what he can do when he sees openings, because we don't get to see that as often. So that is a positive for sure for Sean. But other than that, it was the same old from Sean Strickland. It was Abus Magomedov, who had 19 seconds of cage time in basically the last 3 years, and comes in his second fight, gets a main event against the number 7 Sean Strickland, who Noah just said has fought literally everybody in this division, it feels like. And he had 1 round of gas in the tank. That was it. He didn't come in with a full gas tank with the needle all the way down to F. He looked good in round 1, but nothing too threatening, nothing too dangerous towards Sean. A lot of kicks and whatnot, front teeps up the middle. He looked clean. There was a bad eye poke that cost about 3 minutes right when the fight started, so that took a little time to get through. But after round 1, he was completely shot. Maybe he had a minute in that second round of still looking okay, but after that, Sean just poured on the gas, and Abus couldn't handle it. He literally wilted under the pressure of Sean Strickland, and if you're going to be in the UFC with 5 minutes worth of cardio in this division, I know we talk about middleweight not being like the most deep out of all of them, but it's still a good division, obviously. It's just not going to get you anywhere, especially like if you can't come in and beat Sean Strickland, nothing against Strickland, but how are you going to get to the, Izzy Adesanya's and Robert Whitaker's, right? I mean, it doesn't add up that way. So I come away with this with more takeaways on the Abus Magomedov side, Noah.
I found this performance to be very puzzling. I think that's the best way I can put it, because it seemed like Abus Magomedov came in here with this, with the cardio, like you just said, to only go 5 minutes. But I don't feel like the output and what we saw from him in those first 5 minutes necessarily reflected a man who felt like he only had 5 minutes. Like
That's actually so true.
he definitely put a lot into his shots. Like he looked really good in round one, I thought. Like the way he was throwing, it felt like he was throwing with a lot of power, but it wasn't like he was overexerting himself. So, but then you noticed at the very end of round one, he looked tired. Like, he won the round pretty cleanly. Sean Strickland really didn't throw much of anything in the first round. And that's when I live bet Sean Strickland, because I was like, dude, he looks absolutely gassed. And I was shocked because it's not like he had hurt Strickland and then just was like going for a finish and really emptied the gas tank. No, none of that. So I find this very puzzling because you're given your first main event opportunity. It is very unparalleled for a guy to get in his second fight when he did not come in as this heralded prospect. Like you said in our preview, 32 years old, guy's fought in the PFL. He's got 40 or over 30 fights in his professional MMA career. He's a seasoned veteran. Exciting young, like a guy in his prime. And yes, he's got that Magomedov Dagestan connection. Obviously, that puts you in a certain level of intrigue already. But nobody gets a main event, and under those circumstances. And it was squandered. And maybe this is just who Magomedov is. And then if that's the case, I got to question again something we've talked about time and time again: the matchmaking here. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
I was so sure that the UFC would not in a million years do this fight unless they really felt like Magomedov could compete. And maybe they really did. But based on what we saw, that was a shit to bed. It makes you question even more the matchmaking going on here, because now we have, in a week or so, we got Paulo Costa, Ikram Aliskerov. That's another one of those matchups. Now, Ikram Aliskerov, I mean, that's a man who's went toe-to-toe with Khamzat Chimaev, like a guy who's proven it a little bit more before his UFC career. Abus, he has fought for the PFL in the championship. Like, he's got good wins. He's definitely a good fighter. But this was a low point for him here. Going up against, Sean Strickland's very good. That should not be overlooked. But I can't necessarily walk away here and go, oh, that performance told me that Sean Strickland is ready for a Robert Whittaker and Israel Adesanya, any of those kind of, well, really those two guys at the top, right?
Yep.
And I even said that was sort of a fear of mine going in. When you're going up against a guy who you're not really sure if he's for real or not, it's going to be hard to make yourself look good enough to win and also build like this big positive momentum for yourself. Because if Sean Strickland looked great here, but he did it at the expense of the guy who we weren't sure about.
Yeah.
So then it's like, how does he really build from that, right? Instead, now everybody's just saying, like what we're saying, Magomedov was not ready for this moment. He's not a top 10 caliber fighter. So for Strickland, he did what he needed to do. He definitely got some attention this week. Now, I don't know who hates him more, the women or the Germans. But with that being said, Dominic, he does find himself in a decent spot here. He's won back-to-back fights, Nasser Dinimov, and now here against Magomedov. He has sort of cleansed himself of that two-fight losing streak. Israel Adesanya is what the UFC want to be headlining in Australia in September. I mean, is Sean Strickland potentially the guy you put in there when he kind of got through this real clean? And let's be honest, Robert Whittaker is a near 4-1 favorite against Dricus Du Plessis next week. If Robert Whittaker wins, I do not believe he's taking that Israel Adesanya fight on 2 months' notice.
I don't think so.
Not
even
your
with
third shot. Your third shot, you've lost the first two.
Yeah.
You're going to turn around in 60 days and fight him again? I don't believe it. Dude, if Dricus were to go in there and starch Robert, do I believe
Dricus will take it.
I think so.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not leaning for that to happen. So, Dominic, I know the UFC probably wait it out, see what happens. But could we potentially be looking at a Sean Strickland title fight when it's all said and done here?
I think it's possible because he is a little bit fresher than, someone who we talked about just not too long ago in Jared Cannonier. But I still think I would hold Jared Cannonier ahead of Strickland in terms of like really deserving. I know we've had that conversation before. Let's say just earning that shot again, and Jared Cannonier
Right.
coming off the best performance of his career. I know he had to do it over the course of 5 rounds, and it came easy, but he obviously still you're going to take some sort of punishment in a 25-minute fight like he did against Vettori. But I still think I would hold Cannonier maybe next to get that one. And truthfully, I would love to see Strickland fight Vettori next. And if he wins that and makes it 3 straight, you finally, I think, can put him in there for a legitimate title shot, regardless of who the champion would be at the end of the year.
That's a great scenario. Actually, that's probably the best scenario that you could throw out. Like, to me, that's a perfect scenario. I don't believe that's what's going to happen. Vittori's probably going to he needs to take some time for sure.
Yeah.
I think I agree with you. I mean, Cannonier did just beat Strickland like at the beginning or the very end of last year.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very close fight. It was a fight you could have scored either way, but he got his hand raised.
Yep.
He looked amazing against Vettori. I think there's no question he should be the next guy up. Assuming the winner of that Dricus Robert fight isn't able to take it.
Right.
But the rumors are that Jared Cannonier is going to be fighting Khamzat Chimaev in Abu Dhabi.
Wow.
Now, how many times have I talked about Khamzat rumors in the last few months? It was
good point.
It was Paulo Costa, then it was Kamaru Usman. Now it's Jared Cannonier. I was really adamant that I believe that September card might be seeing Israel Adesanya go up again and fight Jamal Hill for the light heavyweight title. Well, that doesn't seem to be happening because why are the UFC waiting to announce it? Well, to me, I feel like they're waiting because they want to see what happens in these middleweight fights.
Yep.
Dominic, I think Sean Strickland might end up getting the title fight.
Man, you really think
he
so?
Might. I'm not going to go all the way with it and say like I'm guaranteeing it like I did with the Jamal Hill fight. But right now, I don't believe Dricus or Robert will be able to take that fight. I think Sean Strickland's the guy crazy enough to do it. People want to look at him and be like, do they really want to put him in a title fight because he says this, he does that? That's exactly why they want to put him in a title fight. You guys saw the press conference before he fought Ferreira. It's kind of electric. I mean, it was a little,
weird. Him and Izzy going back and forth.
He said some shit that's like a little colorful, not very politically correct, not stuff that we would say. But Dominic, let's not pretend like that shit wasn't entertaining. On a certain level, it was entertaining. I think it's pretty clear that they would put him in there because I do think it'd get a lot of attention. There'd be a lot of heat for it going in. Do I think Strickland has much of a chance against Adesanya? Not really, but that's kind of where I stand with it, Dominic. And I want to know what you think about like Sean Strickland in general. Like, how do you feel about this character he sort of built for himself? Who he is, who he's presenting himself as. Like, obviously, he's sort of trying to be this edgy edgelord, like, guy that's very old-fashioned, but then he kind of says some shit that almost comes off like he's a serial killer in the making sometimes. Really odd guy. But, I mean, do you believe most of what he's saying is really who he is? And if so, like, do you feel like he's a guy, like, with that kind of controversy that surrounds him and, the attention that is brought to him for what he says, is that enough reason to give him a title fight due to what kind of attention it could bring?
I think so. I think most of what we hear and see of Sean is pretty much Sean Strickland. I think it may get tweaked up a little bit, the volume knob, if you will, when he's got the mic and he's on camera. In a way, he almost reminds me of Colby Covington, but I feel like Colby puts on more of an act to get the clicks and the views rather than Sean. I mean, let's just look at Sean's career here. Did we ever really hear about Sean Strickland before 2020, 2021? No, not really. He was just fighting, doing his thing. But ever since then, he's tended to kick it up a notch. And yes, he's been winning, and that helps, right? But when he gets the mic and the camera in front of him, he makes sure to capitalize on it, whether it be good or bad. he's getting people to talk about him, and that's what gets your name value to go up in this sport. And if you put him and Izzy on a stage together in a press conference to hype up a fight in Australia, by the way, that's going to be a very, very big deal. And no, I think that within a week to 2 weeks of International Fight Week, we will have the answer to this question and who Izzy will be fighting in September.
Yeah, very good point, Dominic. I think with that, we will move on to the rest of UFC Mississippi 77. Dominic, co-main event, America. You have yourself a Dagestani wrestler, Grant Dawson. I can't take credit for that. That's something I saw on Twitter. But Grant Dawson, man, he sweeps the cards. He gets a 30-26 even against Damir Ismagulov. Dominic, you know how I felt I put a bet on Grant Dawson. I kind of felt confident that not so much in Grant Dawson being that much better than Damir, but I just was so hesitant to really believe Damir was that motivated for this fight. It seemed like he had a foot out the door.
Yeah.
Maybe he was just trying to fight out his contract. Now that the fight took place, what do you feel here? I mean, is it similar to the main event? Do you feel like the takeaways are with the loser, or do you think for Grant Dawson this was like more than that, a bigger moment, a bigger win for him?
I think this is a big win for Grant Dawson, like a moment where, he didn't get some flashy submission or anything crazy, but he absolutely dominated Damir Ismagulov. Because let's go look at when Damir fought Arman Tsarukyan. Yeah, he was getting taken down quite a bit, but he was like getting up and still, going with Arman at least. Grant got him down and didn't let him up. That's quite impressive, because going into this fight, I stayed away for that simple fact that it's like, okay, well, I get it. Damir has talked about retirement, and maybe these lines are a little wacky, but he's still coming off a loss of Arman Tsarukyan. Arman is likely at least a future title challenger, if not champion, and I don't know if I feel that way about Grant, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying I necessarily feel that way about Grant after this fight even, but he has definitely showed he is a step above what I thought that he was at. I mean, he's 8-0-1 now in the UFC and has a win on the Contender Series. He's going to be approaching top 10 come Tuesday morning. This was a dominant, decisive victory over a very, very good fighter. Whether retirement was on the brain or not many people, I think, are going to be able to do that to Damir Ismagulov, especially since Arman Tsarukyan couldn't. Grant Dawson is here. I think this was his kind of arrival moment.
Yeah, and it was quite a beautiful post-fight interview he had where he was giving a big thanks to his team. He said that was 10% me, 90% my team, my coaches, American top team, was giving huge props to all of them and how he gets his ass kicked every day in the gym. Yeah, you like that. A guy that's like really humble about his capabilities. And then Dominic, to cap it off, to give a lovely shout out to his wife. And then the final words of, "I love you, bitch." That was just great stuff. When he said, "I love you, bitch," I was like, "Oh, okay." Even Michael Bisping was like, "Hey, now."
But I'm thinking of that old Vine. Have you ever seen the guy that plays the guitar?
yeah, that's.
I love you, bitch. Oh my God. I ain't gonna never stop loving you, bitch.
Jake Moore, when we were watching, he was literally singing that after he said that. So that was really fun. But no, yeah, he looked great. I kind of buy into what people were saying, like this kind of your American version of like a Dagestan. Like I think if this is really, I don't mean this to come off this way, but if you took Grant Dawson and you made him Grant Magomedov, then I think that people would really be paying attention to him just because of how the people from Dagestan, from Russia, have been dominating the sport. I think Grant Dawson's fallen under the radar. But like the Magomedov thing, that's such a thing at this point. If he had that, if he had a little, just a smidge, just a Medov somewhere, Grant Dawson Medov, just give him a little pinch of that. I think you'd be really seeing a lot of people pay attention to this guy. But he's going to make it undeniable if he keeps winning. This is the biggest win of his career. You said 8-0-1. That Ricky Glenn draw was a tough one for him, but really outside of that, like since then, he's dominated every opponent he's had, and they've been pretty good opponents. I mean, Marco Madsen's a very good fighter, even as old as he is. Here, to take out Damir Ismagulov, potentially send him into retirement. Very impressive, Dominic. What kind of top 10 matchup would you like to see Grant Dawson take if he gets it?
I like the idea of him and Matos Gamrot, Noah.
It's a great fight.
I
Yeah, it's a
think
great
that
fight.
would be a wonderful, like if you like grappling and wrestling, especially, like that is an intriguing matchup. You know, Grant's going to be at least number 12. Matos is number 7. Yes, he's coming off a win against Jalen Turner, but that was a very razor thin, like some would say controversial win for Gamrot there. So I wouldn't mind seeing that at all, because prior to that, Gamrot had lost to Dariush, who was, top 4, top 5 at that time. Why not put those two together? Matos really has a chance to prove I do belong in the top 10, and Grant trying to earn his way in. I love that type of clash stylistically.
So
Give me
I
5
definitely
rounds
love
of it.
That's a great fight. I do believe. When did we last see Matos Gamrot? When did he last fight? Was that the? That was
He fought
just said
Jalen in March.
Yeah, so in March. I'll be honest with you. I prefer keeping guys. Like, I feel like I want to see Matos in there sooner than Grant Dawson might be ready for. Now, I'm not saying it could happen, and I would be all for it. But my pick here is strictly based on the timing of it. Next week, you got the matchup between Dan Hooker and Jalen Turner. Give me the winner of that. The winner of that takes on Grant Dawson. The winner kind of bounces into the top 10. I think that's a perfect way, and I think that makes sense because Grant Dawson's not going to be a guy that's going to get fast-tracked. He's really going to have to earn his way to a title shot if that's really in his future. And honestly, this win on Saturday, I definitely like the guy, but now I might start to become a real believer in Grant Dawson.
I mean, if he could do a performance like this against a Jalen Turner, against a Gamrot, does that almost really nudge you a level above to saying maybe he's fighting for a title someday in the future?
Yeah,
Like, that's
these
what
are
we're
guys
talking here.
these are guys we've all talked about having that kind of ceiling. A Jalen Turner, Matos Gamrot, the kind of potential those guys have. If he's able to beat them, shouldn't he have that potential too? You know what I mean? He's a young guy, undefeated in the UFC. I don't see what's not to like,
Yeah, and if there's any like haters out there that thought this was, he was just holding on to him, it was boring, yada yada yada. Grant Dawson has 20 wins, and only 3 of them are by decision. This dude is a finisher and is a dangerous guy with subs and ground and pound TKOs. I mean, just go look at his UFC career. He has finishes as well. He's a very elite level fighter.
Now I go down the rest of this card, Dominic, and there was one big storyline throughout that kind of kept rearing its ugly head. And that was that I don't know how to describe it. Expect the unexpected, maybe. Guys that, the exciting prospects that everybody was tuning in to watch, all getting upset. That's what kept happening here. I mean, Dominic, you had guys like Guram Kutateladze.
You sounded like The Price is Right.
He took on Elves Brener. Shout out to Shootbox, by the way. That's one of Charles' guys. Of course, he rocking the bleach blonde hair, as they all do. But Guram looked great. And it was in a hard-fought fight, though. Elves Brener comes back and stops him in round 3 to ruin me and Dom's parlays early. And then, Dominic, you have, Brunno Ferreira, who knocks out RoboCop. And I was expecting big things here going up against a debutant who was kind of a, elder statesman in the MMA space. But Nursulton Ruziboev knocks him out in a minute and 17 seconds. A nasty knockout, by the way. Flapjacked him, just put him straight on his back. Then, Dominic, Ismael Bonfim of the infamous Bonfim brothers, sort of the UFC's response to the Pitbull brothers. That's sort of what these two guys are becoming. Takes on Benoit St. Denis. Now, Benoit St. Denis had a bounce-back fight, but Dominic, he is best known for being the man who took on the brunt of the blows in that fight he had in Abu Dhabi against Eliza Zaleski dos Santos, the fight where that ref just refused to stop it. So, needless to say, I think a lot of people looked at this matchup and said, Benoit might be in some trouble here. Nope.
Dude.
Just body kicks on body kicks on body kicks. Benoit gets the finish submission, 4 minutes, 48 seconds around number one, Dominic. The prospects, they were falling all over the place. Now, you did still have some ones that shined bright. Rinat, Fakhretdinov did get the 1 minute, 55-second submission over Kevin Lee, just nasty. Dropped him with the right, overhand right, and then finished him with that submission. And then Michael Morales and Max Griffin had a very good fight, hard-fought fight. Michael Morales gets the decision victory. So, Dominic, that was the big storyline for me going throughout this card. If you want to go into any of those fights individually and talk about maybe what stood out or anything else on this card that kind of stood out to you.
No, I mean, you really did nail it. That's over half the card filled with like young prospects, man.
Yeah.
That's what was so cool about this card, truthfully. Brener, the come from behind, the blood in the hair. Like, is it not just the most Charles Oliveira thing ever? He even had Oliveira shorts on in the cage. It was like only fitting.
His cut was disgusting.
I saw it
that
afterward.
picture of it on Instagram. Yeah.
It was gross. So, all these were Fakhretdinov, though. I didn't know what to expect from Kevin Lee, but I did have a bet to have that fight start round 2. It didn't start the second minute of the fight, Noah. That right hand was like you heard the thud through the camera of how hard that right hand was. And then not only did he submit Kevin Lee, he put him to sleep. Like a lot of people knew that Rinat was good, but I feel like a lot of people were like, well, is he going to get like finishes and really take these steps up in the UFC?
That's what I was saying. I was talking about the competition he fought before the UFC. I was like, I wasn't sure if I was buying that 20-1 record.
Yeah, I mean, he looked dangerous. So I would give him like a legit, like, yes, Kevin Lee was a step up in a sense, but we didn't know what we would get from Kevin Lee. Now, like, really give him someone here next, and let's see what he's made of. I mean, I just touch on Michael Morales actually real quick as well, because I'm high on this guy at 23 years old. He's 15-0. He keeps the donut on the record, and it didn't come easy. It was a hard fought fight. I believe Max Griffin, it was a 29-28. I feel like on most of the scorecards, if I remember correctly. So I figured it wouldn't come easy. So I'm glad I didn't like take him to win by finish or anything, but he got the job done. He did what he had to do, battle tested against a guy in Max Griffin who's been there and done that. I feel like this is one of those fights where you would see a 23-year-old lose, and that be their kind of come back down to earth. They get that first loss. Where do we go from here? But he was able to keep this record intact against Max Griffin. It says a lot to me. He's 3-0 now in the UFC. I'm very much still excited for the future of Michael Morales.
I definitely think he took a step in the right direction for sure. I'm still think there's going to be a day that it's going to be fade time on Michael Morales, but it's not come yet. And if he keeps getting, this was definitely the right kind of step you needed. Max Griffin, tough veteran. He went the distance. It didn't come easy. He got tested, but he ultimately gets to win. Like, I feel like he passed it in flying colors, that test.
Yes.
Kevin Lee, let's kind of spend a second on him, because he was, of course, kind of an interesting story this week, because this is a guy who's fought for an interim title against Tony Ferguson, who had some real big highs, some real big flashes of not just like a interim title challenger or like a top contender, but he showed true flashes of being a championship level fighter, in my opinion. But mixed in with those flashes was these periods of subpar showings, of gassing out, these lackluster performances, and he finds himself out of the UFC. He goes to Eagle FC, has that main event with Diego Sanchez that nobody wanted to see because they thought Diego shouldn't be fighting. Kevin Lee's just going to smash him. And then it ended up not really being that kind of fight. Kevin Lee busted up his knee or his ACL in like the first minute. And instead it's like kind of a hard-fought win. Well, he comes back to the UFC. He takes this fight with such a tough prospect, at least it appeared. Rinat Fakhretdinov, 20-1. Had dominated in his first two UFC bouts. They put him on the prelims, not even the main event of the prelims, I don't think. And then, or maybe he was, I don't know, but he's on the prelims. He's in the Apex, he's not like on some big card. There's not a whole lot of attention given by the actual promotional machine. it just felt like they were really forcing him to like earn his way back. He wasn't going to get an easy route. Now that it's happened, it was about as bad as you can imagine it would go for his return. What do you do with Kevin Lee, Dom? What's next for him? I mean, this was not an easy fight. Is there still hope? Is there still a glimmer that Kevin Lee can salvage this and still have a solid second run in the UFC? Or is this loss bad enough to where you're thinking this is it? This is done?
I think he's going to be done in the UFC. I don't think he'll have another UFC fight after this. And I know that's maybe me just thinking way too much about how this fight went, but when you look at how he was acting this week, speaking out and stuff as well, and it's never been the brightest path in relationship anyway with him in the UFC. They bring him back after this layoff. He doesn't even get out of the first minute of a fight. I wouldn't be surprised if he were to get released or cut and he's in a Bellator or a PFL in 2024, to be quite honest with you. I don't think we're going to see him fight again in the UFC. If he does, I still think there's potential for him to get a win. I mean, he can beat some people, but the days of the top.
Is that really answering though that like of having a salvage like a good second run is just?
Oh no, that will not happen. No, absolutely no.
So, I mean, I'm not saying championship. I'm saying like, could you see him stringing together a few wins, maybe kind of getting back to like where he was when he fought Daniel Rodriguez, like right outside the top 15, or?
That would be the absolute most would be outside of the top 15 looking in, never into the rankings again in the UFC, I think.
Well, I will admit I do believe you're maybe looking a little too much, having a little bit too much of a recency bias on the whole thing. Like I'm not necessarily sure I want to go even that far. I definitely think he gets another fight in UFC, and I think there's a big reason for that. This performance is not indicative of that. It's not nothing you saw here would tell you, oh yeah, give this guy another performance. But he signed with Ali Abdelaziz, so I believe that's the reason he got back into the UFC. It's no secret that Ali has a great relationship with the company. So people who are on the fritz with the UFC, people who have left the UFC, a lot of times they sign with Ali, and guess what, Dom? They are back in the UFC. So I believe he will get another fight. I'm not sure if he'll get an easy fight. I don't imagine he will. I definitely think you have a point, though, as far as his ceiling. Like, expectations should drastically go down after this one. But it doesn't mean that he cannot still have I still think he could have a decent second run. It's just what's considered decent, what's considered a solid second run. For a guy who had flashes of being a potential champion, is it okay if he just maybe goes like 3-2, over and rides off to the sunset? Is that a decent, solid run where he's just fighting guys kind of in that 16 to 25 range, and maybe wins a couple, loses a couple? Is that considered solid? At this point, it feels like it.
Yeah.
I mean, because you can only go up from what you saw Saturday. So, also interesting to note, he had 2 knee pads on. You notice that?
Yep.
Makes me. I mean, those knee pads, or if he had any sort of knee injury coming in, that didn't have anything to do with him getting clocked by the damn right hand that he got hit with and choked out. But I'm just saying, it's a shame to see that he just, because I liked a lot of what I heard from him this week. I thought the way he was talking, I really was like fucking with it big time. But this is a sport where, these aren't storylines and like that they have a payoff or something. Sometimes this is how it goes. And I would like to see him get another shot, though.
Yeah, I would love to see him get the chance. And you mentioned those leg braces. A lifelong wrestler, once those knees go, they go, man. And there's just no coming back from it. And I don't know if maybe, and it's a shame being only 30 years old. We talked time and time again in the past on the show, even about we never got that full big run and performance from Kevin Lee strung together that we felt he had in him. And now I feel like I officially have to shut that door, and it's like a somber saddening moment. It really is. From an
Yeah, now that I
athletic,
think
like
about
gifted
it,
guy.
now that I think about it, I take back what I said about you being having too much recency bias. No, I think that's an appropriate response. I'm still going to hold out just a little bit,
Of course.
but I'll
You
admit
have
that it's probably going to get me hurt in the end.
We don't want that. I'll give you a hug.
But where does Kevin Lee really fit in all of this? That's the real question. With that, Dominic, let's move on into the fight announcements portion of the show. We do have a couple here, and they are mostly de-announcements.
Yeah.
The way the cookie crumbles, right? So here's the list, Dom. Sean Brady out versus Della Maddalena. This was supposed to happen next Saturday, July 8th, International Fight Week, UFC 290. Big fight, not happening.
Yeah.
How about UFC 292, Boston, August 19th? Henry Cejudo out versus Marlon Cheeto Vera.
Yeah.
However, Dom, the biggest one of them all, a rematch that's like 27 years in the making.
Mm-hmm.
Junior Dos Santos takes on Fabricio Verdum, September 8th. Game bred, bare knuckle MMA, Dominic's favorite combat sport in the world. So, Dominic, you got three: the good, the bad, the ugly. I mean, is the two fight de-announcements better than the fight announcement for you, Dominic? How are you feeling?
Oh, JDS versus Verdum and bare knuckle MMA makes up drastically for the two fights that we lost for sure. No, I could only play that for so long. No, absolutely not. These de-announcements are horrendous. Everybody's trying to fight Jackie Moon though on International Fight Week. Kevin Holland saying he's going to do it and then still fight the card that he's scheduled to fight on. Joaquin Buckley was there at the Apex, talked to him in person, said, I can't make the weight for next week, but I'll fight you in Australia. Who else was there? I saw someone throwing out Chris Curtis, another one, the Action Man, and I saw someone tweet this. It might have been MMA Orbit. Big fan of that Twitter page, by the way, recently. I don't remember if it was them or someone on Twitter said, how about Rinat Fakhretdinov just had a win in 55 seconds, keep him in Vegas, do a catchweight fight so he doesn't have to cut as much weight again, and do him and Jack Della Maddalena. Any of the four is fine with me, but I really want to see Jack on that card next week. Sean Brady, like a swollen elbow. There's stuff in there they have to drain. I saw a picture of it, so it didn't look very good. Henry Cejudo gets a shoulder injury by maybe or maybe not doing a fight breakdown for his YouTube channel. He went to show some sort of move and literally just did this. And he's like, oh shit. And that literally may have been the injury that keeps him out of this fight with Marlon Vera.
Oh, come on. You know damn well he hurt himself in training and it was already hurt. But it was very funny when I saw it from our friends at Spinning Backfist. It's all posted.
Imagine that was the way.
That'd be funny, though.
Can we get someone for Marlon Vera, Noah? That's my question. Is he staying on that card August 19th in Boston?
Is he staying on that card? Well, I've not heard a lot of talk about it. That's for sure.
He was pissed, upset. The video is funny.
I'll be honest. I don't think so. I don't think he stays. Bigger story here for me. I mean, can Aljamain Sterling get a fucking apology or something? I'll apologize to him.
Okay.
Because Dominic, what are
you apologizing for?
Oh, well, because I when this was all announced, remember Dana first started going after Aljo.
Uh-huh.
I said I felt like when it was all said and done, Aljo was not going to be able to fight Sean O'Malley because I admitted it was not on him. Like, I felt like it was the UFC screwing him, making him do this quick turnaround. But I thought Henry Cejudo would step in and fight Sean O'Malley.
Okay.
So I apologized because guess who pulled out? Henry Cejudo. And Henry Cejudo looks kind of goofy here because he was calling Dana saying he's not fighting. Give me the fight. And now he's out. Now, again, I love Henry Cejudo. I'm not saying that this is like karma or whatever. I mean, I don't wish this on him. But I'm just saying it doesn't look great. And Dominic, even more than that, you look at Henry Cejudo's return now. He loses his return fight for the title. His next bout, he gets a shoulder injury, which I don't believe he's going to get surgery. I don't believe he's going to, let it heal or do whatever, the physical therapy, whatever. So he'll be able to come back a little bit sooner. But hearing that, if you just take that at face value, that he lost his return bout, his next fight he gets a significant shoulder injury. Does it kind of feel like, Henry Cejudo, by the way, 37 years old, does it sort of feel like, this comeback is kind of going off the rails for him a little bit?
It's a little wild and crazy right now. I mean, in typical Triple C fashion, he at least keeps his name in the headlines and people talking about him, but not all for the positive side. Definitely not the ideal situation here. I wonder if he'll be able to get in before the end of the year. I feel like he could still maybe salvage something if he can fight by the end of the year, and maybe they rebook this down the line. Like, it still kind of came out of nowhere, this fight. Since him and Marab are both injured, can we let them both heal and then just do them against each other? Because I still think I'd want to see that fight.
That's the only bright side of this, is you probably could see Henry Cejudo fight Marab now.
Yeah, that's what I want. And it sucks for Marlon because I don't know what you do with him now. And I will say, with this fight falling out, there is a lot more significance on Sanhagen versus Umar Nurmagomedov as well.
Yeah,
so a little bit of wild stuff going on at 135.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at the rankings for bantamweight. The only guy that I think I could see Marlon Vera taking on this short of notice is maybe Petr Yan, maybe.
Oh my,
but I just don't know if they could really make that work. I mean, I don't know how it works as far as getting a visa, and then you're just talking about two guys who both are in need of a win, taking each other on short notice. Like, is Petr Yan really going to take that when he's in as desperate need of a win as he is? Outside of that, Rob Font's fighting Song Yadong on that same card, isn't he?
Yes. Yeah.
And then Dominic Cruz already got knocked out by Marlon Vera. Pedro Munoz, maybe, but I don't really see that happening. Then you have Umar Nurmagomedov. That's top 11 right there. And then you got Ricky Simone, who I just lost his biggest fight. Yeah. So, Adrian Yanez lost to Rob Font. Like, really, there ain't that many people here that I feel like you could put in there with Marlon Vera besides Petr Yan.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's in what, 7 weeks, basically? I don't know if they're going to be able to put that together. You're right.
It is far enough away to where if it's going to happen, now's a good time, because 7 weeks is a pretty good amount of time for. I mean, that's most guys usually do their serious camp 6 weeks out.
Yeah, 6-8 weeks. Yeah.
So I mean, it's they could find somebody, but they're very limited on options.
Yeah, exactly.
See what TJ Dillashaw's up to. See if he wants to come back
out of retirement. There you go.
There you go. I believe it's more likely Jack stays on the card next week, which is kind of crazy because it's next week.
Someone's gonna do it. Yeah.
You think Kevin Hall? If you had to predict, do you think it's any of the guys that they? By the way, I hate the idea of them having Rinat Fakhretdinov turn around in a week. That's the worst. That's the worst idea you've ever had, Dom.
That wasn't my idea. I saw it on Twitter.
But you said you liked it, so I'm going to say it's your idea.
It makes sense. Chris or Kevin, though. And which one would I prefer? Probably Chris, because Kevin already has a fight booked.
You're saying Chris Curtis?
Yeah, yeah. That was
when is Kevin Holland fighting?
He said he's fighting at 291. He said he would fight Jack and then still fight at 291, which of course he would.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that means he's definitely not fighting on that card. Well, now that makes me. I feel like doesn't it seem like he's going to end up getting some debutante and Jack's going to be a minus 1,200 or something.
Yeah, and then him to win by finish is still minus 700, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Dominic, let's move on to Blazin Bets.
Damn.
What a week it was. Battle of the Titans. We both go negative.
It was like week one.
I did get very close to that zero. I got a minus 0.1 units was my final tally. Dominic, what did you have?
Minus 3.41. Right back to normal we go, Noah. You got
for the series, that makes me up 5-3.
Yep.
As far as the actual bets go, Dominic, I mean, I'm getting so lucky with the live betting. It's unreal. The live betting, I shouldn't say lucky. No, it's skilled.
No asterisk.
But I need to stop placing bets before the card and then just have to do 3 live bets during the card.
Only live bet, yeah.
Dude, I don't think you realize, I don't think I told you, I won a lot of money just in the last 24 hours just from live betting.
I saw your tweet about, was it boxing?
Yeah, Jared Anderson, the big heavyweight boxing prospect. They had a card in Toledo on ESPN. He's from Toledo. I was actually thinking about going, but then it was the same weekend I was coming home. He was taking on Charles Martin, former heavyweight champion, but it's kind of like Charles Martin's kind of like it's like when Vitor Belfort beat Randy Couture, where it was because of the grazing of a glove caused his eye to swell shut. It was like kind of an asterisk. Charles Martin boxed this guy who snapped his leg, basically. That's how he won. So,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
not the most earned of a heavyweight title or heavyweight, champions. It was in round 6 of 10. Anderson had dominated the early rounds, but Martin was looking okay. Martin hurt Anderson in round 5 bad. But then Anderson had bounced back in round 6 and had another really good round, looked great. Halfway through, I placed for Jared Anderson to win by decision, plus 400. 2 units with ease.
What's with the 2-unit confidence, Noah? Any inkling, or you're just like, eh?
Just you got to shoot from the hip, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. That's what my mom always told me. And then this morning, my dad's girlfriend wakes up, and I slept on the couch in the living room. She comes out, she turns it on the F1 race. You know, our buddy Branson, big F1 fan. I've never watched an F1 race in my life, but I do know Max Verstappen is like the GOAT. The man wins like every race. He was in 3rd place at the time. I'm literally like barely awake. I go to DraftKings. He was like plus 150 to win or something like that. I threw $50 on him, and he ended up winning as well. So and I was on like lap 20 of 71 when that happened.
Wow.
So, ya boy, I'm not Eric Anders, but your boy is killing it with the live bets. However, I said all that to say I got to work on my
regular
pre-card bets, because if you take away the 2 units on Sean Strickland money line I had here at minus 115, which I got at the end of the first round, by the way, I went 2 and 3 on singles, 1 and 1 on parlays. Grand Dawson money line, and then the Strickland Magomedov under 3.5 at plus 120 were the hits. Kevin Lee plus 3.5, bad. Griffin Morales under 2.5 wasn't the worst, but like, you know,
I like the chance you took though. The
way
plus
it was going though, I kind of, even though it was a good fight and like they were going for it around round 2, I really felt like I was screwed already. Brito by submission or decision. I knew there was a chance. I was hoping when they had the knee bar shit going on that he would end up getting a sub, but no. 2-unit money line parlay. Dominic, I was so confident in this parlay at plus 120. All 3 lost.
It was that type of card.
Kutateladze, Ferreira, Bonfim. Just down.
Yeah.
But then my others parlay, Santos Rosa fight goes the distance. Romanov Ivanov over 1.5 rounds. Hits pretty easily. So minus 0.1. But in this game, you don't have to go positive. You just have to be better than Dom. So Dom, you want to go over your slip?
Yeah, you got to be better than Dom. And in 2023, that's pretty damn easy to do. So I went 1 and 4. I had a come back down to earth moment after 3 back-to-back great weeks. And, the only one that hit was Joe Anderson Brito to win in round 1 at minus 170. Wish I would have just put 10 units on it, because that was literally the lock of the card. We all knew it was going to happen. If you're a minus 1,400 and you don't win in the first round by a finish, you probably should just lose the fight, even if you dominate a decision victory. The ones that lost, Melissa Gatto loses a split decision to Lipsky. I believed in Gatto, coming off that loss to Cortez, and then she had this fight. It wasn't that great. Probably won't be betting on her ever again. Morales did win, though, so that's good. Bruno Ferreira, money line, minus 186. Chalk. What a waste of chalk. Just throw that out the window. Very dumb. The late ad that I had yesterday before the card was a start round 2 parlay. Lee Fakhretdinov didn't even start the 2nd minute, so that was dead upon arrival pretty much. And then the other one was Brito by finish. Again, bam. I wish I would have just did my life savings on Joe Anderson Brito by anything, and we would have been pretty good. Kutateladze lost and Bonfim lost. But if I'm going to lose a parlay, I like losing by more than one leg. That way I don't have to be like, oh, well, if this would have happened. No, I
Yeah.
just want everything to lose, to be quite honest. So
It was a tough card, Dom. I mean, let's be
it
real.
was a
Like,
bitch of a card.
a lot
to
of
bet.
underdog, a lot of the big prospects losing. I mean, that was not an easy card by any
No.
means. And I even told you my lean. If I had not been coming home and had been kind of busy before the card, I probably would have put a money line play on Abus Magomedov. I even said like the line was screaming at me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up being able to live bet Strickland with 2 units. So like it just, Dominic unfortunately had the crutch of being at a wedding, so he could not really live bet. But that's the way it goes. I couldn't bet that week in Florida, so no asterisks, right, Dom?
Yeah, and if I would have live bet, they would have lost anyway. It was done. Yesterday was not in the cards for me. International Fight Week.
Dominic's the opposite of me. When he live bets, that's when things are like that. They're going downhill, and they're going to continue.
I'm just going to keep. Yeah, exactly.
Let's move on to our last segment of the day, Dominic. The only segment we know how to end on around here. A little segment. Say it with me. We like to call closing statements. The point of the show where me and Dominic talk about anything and everything, MMA related or not. You guys may have seen some of our previous editions of closing statements. We've discussed a lot of different food debates, board games, and maybe porn. Quick follow-up from our porn discussion, Dom, from last episode. I did talk to our buddy Tyler, Mystic P.
Oh.
I went and got dinner with him. He is moving to Tennessee a week from Saturday, so he will be there July 8th. Unfortunately, probably will miss International Fight Week, but we got dinner, and I was telling him about our discussion on here about porn, and he did not send me a voice message. He was supposed to, but he did want me to let you know that he loves hardcore porn, and that he believes that you have the look of a guy who also loves hardcore porn.
Wow.
Do you care to respond to that?
Just when you think you know someone, they go and
just forget the cameras are there, Dom. It's just me and you.
Yeah, I don't think I would know how to respond even if the cameras weren't on, to be honest. Tyler, safe travels and have a good moving trip to Tennessee.
Yeah. Dominic, do you have any closing statements for today besides your addiction to porn?
You swam yesterday.
Yeah.
What's the go-to jump? Cannonball, dive, swan dive, pencil? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing when you jump off into the pool, into the deep end? I'm a good fan of the pencil. Shove it on up.
You do the pencil, huh?
Yeah, we stack up our floats, stack them up together, 3, 4, 5, jump in, pencil right through, floop, into the deep end. That's my go-to.
I'll be honest. I don't jump. I don't jump in.
Take the steps.
I
Relax.
take the steps. You have to realize, Dominic, that you were talking to a pretty big guy here, and I'm not trying to make every bit of that water come out of the pool when I cannonball in. So I tend to just kind of slide on in. Like sometimes I'll sit, do feet first, and then I just kind of slide in,
Yeah.
Just try to be smooth with it, Dom.
So your go-to is the slide in.
Silent but deadly.
Silent but deadly. There you go.
Yeah, that's my go-to. Dominic, when you're in the pool, do you tend to have do you sit on a float a lot, or are you usually just in the water swimming around?
I find myself now, especially at hours, I'm just shooting basketball the whole time. That's like all I do. I've never shot more shots of basketball in my life than I have in the pool, and I played basketball like all my life through high school and everything. That's all I do. The whole time, I'll just shoot, and I'm pretty dialed at pool basketball.
I was about to say, how's the jump shot? Is the jump shot
Yeah,
good in the pool?
Big Dave has had a big up on me in basketball for quite some time. He was good back in the day. Respect is due.
Yeah, game recognized game.
But I have surpassed him, whether he wants to acknowledge it or not. He is no longer the guy. The pool basketball king is me, and he has been dethroned this year, day by day, week by week. He's getting pummeled, and it's just that's how it works.
The future is now, old man.
Yeah. Pool
Well, my name's
basketball.
No Baker. That's Dominic Slee. We are but just two to below average Joes, and we'll see you guys on Friday.